my guest folk buddy is my toy penguin.
All right, that's...
So there'll be a few. I don't know if I'm going to do any penguin references.
Sounds whimsical.
I just suddenly...
What's the penguin's name?
Percy.
Percy. So not Frobisher.
No, it's Percy. Percy penguin.
No.
So it's quite...
It's fine as you. Has to sleep at night. Your name is...
Andrew Ilstone.
My name is Clarrie Maguire.
Percy Penguin couldn't come.
No.
This is Folk Buddies.
This is an episode of Folk Buddies.
Yes. I'm back talking to a human being.
Yes. I shouldn't have paused. Definitely human. No one is three dogs in a big coat.
Anyway, enough of this frivolity. What albums have you been listening to?
Well, I've been... am I supposed to be pretending I wasn't specifically requested to listen to those albums?
Sorry, no, what I meant was...
You asked me for the opinions on things.
I've got a list of 6 albums here. The first one on my list is a revival by a little outfit called Bellowhead that I don't think it's possible that some of our listeners have heard of. So you've listened to that one.
I feel like there's not a huge amount to say about that because it was kind of Bellowhead.
Okay, so the second one on the list... Okay. Bellowhead in general.
They're a good studio band, a fantastic live band.
Yeah.
Responsible for a lot of sincere mainstream interest in folk, which is not to be sniffed at. And it was a successful album, I thought. Yes.
This is going to crop up again with a couple of the other things we're talking about, but sometimes when it's a group you like, there are a set of Bellowhead songs that you hope they'll sing at the concerts, and they pretty much always do.
Yeah.
So going back to Whiskey is the Life of Man and London Town and New York Dolls, I did think that this album added at least 2 or 3 to that list. I mean, were there any that you particularly...
I couldn't grab one as something that was a particular favourite.
But I mean, I thought the Roll Alabama Roll was great. I thought the Let Union Be was great, and I thought the what is it called? But the one that's a less well-known version of, but it's obviously the same song as Scarborough Fair. Is it Rosebery? It's Rosebery Lane, isn't it? If you go down Rosebery Lane, where every flower grows merry and fine, she'll be a true love of mine. I thought that was terrific. I am not entirely sure where Bellowhead is going beyond being a party band, which God knows there's nothing wrong with them. They're all doing their own projects. I initially thought when they shifted onto the mainstream label that they might be being told they can't do their own projects, but Sam Sweeney has got a couple of things going, so there'd be nothing wrong with them being a party band. There've been moments where they've been seeming to try to do something a little bit less obviously Bellowhead. I couldn't tell you which album they did Port of Amsterdam on, but that was very much showcasing John Bowden, as the sort of storyteller folky that he is.
See, I think that's one of the things where Bellowhead are a kind of Venn diagram band, where they're in an overlap, because I think that from the mainstream side is a very, very Bellowhead song, rather than from the folk side.
Right.
Because that's Amsterdam, that's a Scott Walker, Jacques Brel, David Bowie.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it was genuinely surprising to hear that described as not being a very Bellowhead thing to do.
Oh, it's not necessarily the material. That particular song showcases John Bowden's performance in a way that much of Bellowhead is Dutch ensemble. That's the point of it. I don't know. Every time I've seen that, I've been at a concert where that one's come up live. I've always thought, oh, good. That's the John Bowden from Spears and Bowden. I'm actually going to get to hear the lyrics on this one.
Because I honestly would have put it in with Cholera Camp and things.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but then they're not. But you see, I think that they're not. That there isn't on the newest album. There aren't many of. I mean, at one point I said, and I mean this was a smart remark. I don't really. It's not really true, but there were the two bands. There was Folky Bellowhead and there was Mad Bellowhead. And Mad Bellowhead did things like Cholera Camp and Black Beetle Pie on the last album. There wasn't a lot of Mad Bellowhead on this one. There was a lot more. A lot more of it was the bouncy, accessible sing along. I did think they did a very good job. They did. A version of The Cruel Mother, didn't they? I think they called it Under the Greenwood Side, which I thought some of the darkness of the song came through. Whereas sometimes my big complaint about Bellowhead is that sometimes these great songs with great stories become an arrangement delivery mechanism, and it could have been almost anything. But I thought that and actually the narrative they do. They probably don't do all the verses because. Alabama Roll goes on for about 1,000 verses, I expect. But they did. There was enough of it that you got the sense of it being a ballad and a story. There's an American guy who does floor spots at the Black Swan Club in New York, who always one of his regular numbers, but he always interjects between verses which bits are entirely untrue. Any other things to say about that Bellowhead album?
No, I started.
Where would you put it in your ranking of Bellowhead albums?
I think that there have been 3 or 4 albums.
Hedonism.
Because I think their second one was my favourite.
Yeah.
And then I think it's probably second. If there's been 4. Then it's joint third.
Right.
If there's been 3, it's third. But I don't mean that in a kind of the worst way. I mean it in the. I think the second album is my favourite, and then the rest are kind of more of a.
I like their earlier, funnier stuff. But no, I did like this a lot. Hang on. I was going to say I like this a lot more than their previous album, which was Broadside. There were a lot more songs on this that I liked. The only one I really took away on Broadside as being great was...
You're looking at me to help you? I'm not going to, because I don't know.
The one about being transported to Australia. I'm taking a trip on a government ship 1,000 miles away.
Oh, yeah.
Which is magnificent. It's a sea shanty. And they quite like... They did a copper song on that album. They did Thousands or More. But it was another one where I quite like the opening, where they're doing... close harmony, and then they start to do arrangement, and I think you've lost the song there. That's a bit of a pity.
I think the thing is, I think I possibly like Bellowhead on a slightly shallower footing than you do. I like what Bellowhead do. As long as they keep doing what they do, I'm always going to enjoy it. If they decide to do something spectacular and different, and it's the sort of thing I like, I'll probably enjoy it. Sure. But unless they just absolutely shit the bed, it's always just going to be, that's another Bellowhead album, I'll probably pick that up.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's much how I feel about Bellowhead. I mean, given Bellowhead's status as, they're probably what, I don't know, Steel Eye Span were or something. They're the folk band that people who don't listen to folk music listen to, and I like them plenty. I have often had a sense, almost from the first time I heard them, that this isn't quite the real thing. That I'd really rather hear Spears and Bowden together, or just the two of them, or Paul Sardin and Benji Kirkpatrick doing whatever their band is, Faustus. I mean, some of the smaller iterations of Bellowhead, I actually think are more sort of the real thing. But I'm not in any way knocking the idea of a load of folkies coming together and doing. They're a festival band, although they're now so popular that they could just talk. But
I suppose this is the thing, isn't it? Because that's always been the big difference, that you have an idea of the real thing as something you can like or dislike, whereas unless they're actually robots, I don't.
Yeah, sorry, but I didn't mean the real thing.
No, I didn't mean that to be dismissive of your thing. It's just a different way of enjoying music. Because, of course, the thing is, we don't really bring it up enough on the podcast that you're a folk fan. That's your thing. Whereas I am a music fan who quite likes folk. So,
but no, when I said the real thing, I wasn't hankering after some. I wasn't hankering after authenticity with the capital A. I really meant one of the first blind acts I ever heard was Spears and Bowden, John Bowden doing the Birth of Robin Hood, or one of those murder ballads, or something with the other guy doing fantastic accordion accompaniment is amazing. It's one of my favourite things. And I've always had a slight sense of Bellowhead of, I'm going to a Spears and Bowden concert. I know, they brought a load of their friends along. Oh, that's all right. In some ways, I wish their friends would go home, and you would just, I don't really mean, obviously, I don't mean that. You get what I'm saying.
They're a bit lively for you.
I love Bellowhead, and the fact that my little nephew was wild to see them, see them. He listened to them. He listened to records. He loved the concert. He wants to go again. Bellowhead.
He was briefly following me on Twitter, which was really worrying.
Fine. It would be mostly about Barnet Football Club.
Yes.
Did you see them? What other albums do we listen to off the list? O'Hooley and Tidow.
O'Hooley and Tidow, The Hum. That's actually quite an old album at this point, isn't it?
Well, all of these albums are quite old albums because they came out in 2014. We're doing
it's only early 2015.
Yes, but it's something that came out last summer. The summer.
Which it was a good album. I think by the time the album came out, I was maybe they'd been doing a lot of it in concerts in the run-up, in the year or so on the run-up to it, and so I think I wasn't necessarily in a position to judge it as an artefact.
Sure.
It's got. It's quite upbeat for a O'Hooley and Tidow album, because the children have merely been sent thousands of miles away rather than killed.
Yes. So the two mothers. Yes. Was that the one that was the Jackie Oates song at one point?
I have no idea.
Or did Jackie Oates sing that in the Lullaby tour? I'm sure we've heard someone else.
Yeah, I think you're right about Jackie Oates singing in the Lullaby.
That is a rare example of one that destroys you emotionally. And I'm sort of...
I don't remember whether it did. It probably did.
I thought you were much more...
I imagine it did. The worst thing is, it's not even... There's a couple of songs where it's the lyrics that really destroy me, and I am a sucker for parental themes. But the worst thing, which is something I've discovered about myself over the last 6 months or so, if a song has a rising chord sequence... The lyrics could just be bogies and bums, and I'll still end up crying about halfway through it.
I think that's maybe how music works.
But it's very embarrassing when you're watching sitcoms.
Oh, you didn't come to the Cornish night at the.
I didn't. I've been a homebody this. It should be said I've been skint, because me and my partner have been unemployed the last few months.
You'll be glad to know that the Roaring Dromon didn't attempt to sing Cousin Jack at the St Piran's Day night, but someone from the floor sang something called "This Is My Cornwall and Here Will I Die," which I'd never heard before, and had that I was.
Oh, did you get all
that sort of morphed in? I was born in Cornwall and I will never leave Cornwall. That can only occur in a pub in Bristol.
Poldark must leave you a withered wreck every week.
It was fine. And, fine. So we're talking about O'Hooley and Tidow. So yes, the two mothers you like.
Yeah, and obviously there's the title track, which I seem to remember. I was for some reason annoyed by at the festival when I first heard it, but I think that was me being in a bad mood.
Okay.
It's quite a nice song about seeing kind of local industry as a good thing.
Yes, there is an electronic buzz in their house, and some people have complained about it, but they actually rather like it, and it becomes a metaphor for we want to live in mill owners' old mill workers' cottages, but we want it to be as far away as possible for anything as nasty as a mill.
Yeah, and it's basically is about preferring live towns to dead towns.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that sort of thing.
This is going to be a bit like what I said about Bellowhead, in that this was I mean, I like O'Hooley and Tidow very much. I mean, I think that, but I was sort of waiting for the killer track on this album, and I didn't think they're quite.
There was no Gentleman Jack on it.
No Gentleman Jack on it. I was going to actually say that in a way, the arrangement of the hum, there's a lot of counter melody and thing is a little reminiscent. I do like the beer song, which is Summit's Brewing, where they take a refrain from a traditional Copper Family song and then put their own words about. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's a completely different. It's a new song about microbreweries, but which uses the refrain of "Good Owl, Thou Art My Darling."
I mean, I was saying it in a jokey way earlier, but it is actually a much lighter album themically than a lot of their earlier stuff.
Yeah, I think it is. My sense when I first listened to it, because they did a set at Trowbridge, which was mostly off that album, which I thought was brilliant. I bought the album, I took it home, and I think when I got around to listening to the album, I slightly thought it was overproduced. There's quite a lot going on. There's some, there's industrial sounds. There's and I particularly thought that the Real Ale song, on a stage, as a Copper song, it would be unaccompanied. They did it with them, probably with piano. But there's quite a lot more going on, which I suppose makes it an anthem. But I didn't. I just kept thinking this is just a little bit over the top.
I think at festivals the beer one's definitely their getting the crowd on side song, isn't it?
Yes. Actually, there's something. It's very characteristic of them, but hang on. I'm not going to be able to articulate what I want to say without it sounding dreadful.
Is it their second or third album?
Third, at least.
Because one of the things that did strike me is I was saying about it being much lighter themically. It almost seemed a bit like it had skipped from the first to what we could say the first in inverted commas to the third album. In that, I admire them as musicians and I enjoy them when I go to see them, but they're not not two people I necessarily go out of my way to see. And it felt like musically this was similar to their earlier stuff, but with, let's say, lighter themes and a bit more production. Whereas the previous album seemed like they were trying different things with arrangements and stuff. And I think I slightly preferred I preferred the previous one quite a lot.
Yeah.
But that was just my...
Yeah, no, and then the thing I was going to say was there's something in their lyrics writing, which is one of those things where the thing that comes into your head to say was there something slightly primary school about it. Now, what I mean is the beer song and one or two of the others are only the product of research, and there's this slight sense of, first you take the mush and then you add the hops. There's something, but in a way, that's the kind of that's who they are. So that's. I mean, I felt it in the Gentleman Jack song, which is an amazing song. But some of the lyrics of that, you're thinking, I can hear the documentary or the essay they got that from.
Oh yeah, I mean, but that again, that's always been what they've done, isn't it? Because when they were first on my radar, they almost seemed. This is going to sound slightly mad, but it's the closest word I can think of. They almost seemed slightly reenactory in what they were doing. They were doing. While they were doing sort of new stuff or new arrangements of old stuff, there was almost a feel of them presenting a Victorian parlour things were this, and then.
Yeah, there was certain. I mean, certainly I heard the expression chamber folk used about them, which I think they've moved away from, and they don't. But
because one of the reasons I feel slightly bad saying. That I didn't like this album as much as the previous album was because they do just come across as really kind of sound people in themselves. Yeah. And this last year, for just a few, through fluke, we've seen them loads of times at festivals and things, and they've seemed like they're having a lot more fun than they were having in the past.
Yes.
So I don't want to... I don't want them just... I mean, not that they care what I think, but I hope enough people liked it that they'll keep doing what makes them happy.
Yes. No, I believe they are listeners.
Yeah, you believe everyone is a listener. You have an inflated idea of... are we the Velvet Underground of podcasts? That we've only got 63 listeners, but they're all in a band.
The other thing on the album, which was brilliant, was the Nick Jones song, Ruins on the Shore.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought they did it better than Nick Jones. I think that the arrangement on the album is great. It's primarily the piano, I think, but you know the swooping sounds is what you want on this huge song about other civilizations have ended and our civilization's going to end and we're all going to be forgotten. And she always says it makes her think of Planet of the Apes.
No, that sounds reasonable.
But
I'm not googling Planet of the Apes.
I don't know if are we actually going to do Hit or Miss as we did last time.
No, because I'm not going to remember hardly any of the track names of anything. So it's
no, just as whether the album was a hit or.
Well, and I think
it's silly.
Yes, and it's needlessly divisive because there's things I would feel obliged to count as a miss that you believe to be the second coming of folk, and and I wouldn't be thinking of them as a miss because I think they're bad music. It's merely that they don't connect with me, and that I think they had one very, very bad song that may have been the title track on them.
So another album which we've been listening to, and I slightly had to persuade you to listen to it. It's going, and it has to be said, it's very old because it's going right back to the beginning of 2014. But it is 2014. It's Luke Jackson's second album, Fumes and Faith. Now, look, we're not going to have exactly the same argument we've had about Luke Jackson a lot of times, but you did listen to it.
I did listen to it, and you say you had to persuade me to listen to it. I don't think he's bad. No. I have to keep repeating this, but he's just like someone I don't enjoy, so
you would not have listened
to it.
You would not have listened to this album if we weren't going to talk about it on the podcast, probably.
No.
Okay, I thought his first album was fantastic. You didn't think it was that great. The second album is a bit different. What did you think as compared with the first one?
I just find it really neutral, man with a guitar type thing. Is he? Is it religious music? Is he a Christian musician?
I think that's for the listener to say.
Well, I don't mean it as a judgment. Just that it's whether I'm missing something because it's coming from a tradition that I didn't.
I have no idea.
Right.
It is. I observe that a lot of his little videos are done in churches. He's used church buildings several times. I observed that he did a tour with Martin Joseph, who is very explicitly an evangelical. He's very explicitly a Christian singer. I have no idea if the Jacksons were a faith background or not.
I mean, I was genuinely asking just because if his songs were kind of sending out things with an assumption of kind of an emotional reaction that they're not triggering, because most of it I was just neutral with. I really, really didn't like Fumes and Faith
because
I didn't think it was doing anything interesting musically, and a lot of the lyrics made me cringe.
Because
I'm now trying to remember whether it was that song or whether it was one of the other songs, because there was really only two that had provoked a negative reaction in me, and one of them it was just tooting rather than strongly negative, but there was a little bit of kind of there was some bits where it was trying to affect a persona of kind of age and wisdom, which, given he actually sounds young, wasn't really working.
Fumes and Faith is. It's not my favourite on the album, but I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from, because it's a lot of "We don't want you in our town." Is this, and I'm not absolutely sure whether this is satirising small-minded people, small town people, or whether this is saying that these bad rich townies are coming to our little communities and spoiling them. I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what it's. No,
I mean,
it's not hometown. You're not welcome here.
I'm
not even exactly sure what the because it's. God knows it's not a race, and far too often it seems to be we're running on fumes and faith. I'm not exactly so sure. Is fumes young person slang for drugs or cars or?
I didn't get the sense that he is entirely confident of what he's meaning in and I feel like I sort of felt a bit like that for a lot of the album. It doesn't mean it's bad music, but it already wasn't connecting with me on an emotional level, and so that just was a bit more distance.
Musically, it's a lot different from the first album. Musically, he's very much affecting blues and Americana styles.
I don't think I perceived a level of difference that you did, but again, this is partly through us being into slightly different.
Oh come on! The first album is all the sweet folky melodies about driving bikes down hills, and this is full of blues riffs, and I mean there's an explicit pastiche, goes to the crossroads, and
we've had this before though, where I've said that two albums were similar, and you've not been able to see it, and vice versa. Just because I think possibly I'm listening to it in a broader category. I was thinking it sounded again just like singer-songwriter, guitar man stuff.
So do you know which other one?
No, this is what I couldn't remember. I can't remember whether the thing I took against was part of Fumes and Faith, or whether it was part of another song. Yeah. But there was definitely one that was very much kind of a life hard lived and we've wasted our time sort of stuff.
Yeah, maybe the last one on is there another one called Notebook? Could have been that one.
Possibly. But, my memory's bad enough with things I really like.
But I mean, hang on. You're not. You haven't actually caught up with my solo podcasts. No. But I talked about the concert I went to, and I said I wondered whether what boiled down to where we don't agree about Luke Jackson is that he can be very sweet, and is it my toleration for the song which is actually called Father and Son, the traveller, the two travellers, and the mother's left and settled down, and the man goes and finds her. She doesn't want to come home, but actually him and his dad are going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a lovely song, but I could see that you might listen to that and say that's a bit saccharine, a bit.
No, I can see what you mean, because I didn't much care for that, but I'm not sure it's the deal breaker thing. I think it just does something about it leaves me cold.
Because the one on the one of the cool things is that these songs are developing. So the very heavily Americana one, Sister, which it opens on. I noticed just listening to the album again before coming here that one of the things which I'd singled out at the concert is where it gets to the "You're not a thief, but I'm also a murderer" line, and that in his live performances now he stops playing the guitar and just delivers that very dramatically. That isn't on the album at all. No. So his songs are developing, and he's actually just put out a version of that same song with him and three other guys who are basically just doing some quite simple harmonies and some drums, but it actually works very nicely. So the songs are developing. Naturally, the ones I like most on this album are the ones which are closest to the first album. So the Down to the Sea, isn't it? I wish I could get my group mates together to do what we used to do. That feels to me to be off. Could have gone on to the first album. I think it's really beautiful. Whereas a lot of the Goes to the Crossroads, Calls Me Home, where he's trying to do blues, he's different. Was there anything on the album where you listened to and you thought that's different and better?
No, not really. But this is But it can be a bit frustrating because I'm always reluctant to be drawn into conversation about it. But the thing is, it just, as an artist, he just doesn't really, what he does doesn't connect with me. And it's much, much more interesting to hear someone talk about why they like something than just keep going, I just don't like it, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not, absolutely not trying to push it on you.
I mean, the thing is, if I actively disliked him, if I thought he was a bad musician, I'd be off for an hour and a half, and there'd be elaborate similes and God knows what going on. But I don't actively. I think he's a fine musician, and one day maybe it will click. It took a while with Show of Hands.
Sure.
It took a while with Eliza Carthy.
Yeah.
But it just has never ever clicked with me.
But. Yeah, so, Luke Jackson, Feelings and Faith, I like it a lot. I don't like it quite as much as his first album, although some of the songs have grown on me. I thought the live performance, the Sister, I did think was really riveting, which wasn't my favourite on the album. Many credits to him that he isn't trying to do the second album again. He recognises you can't do your second album can't be another growing up autobiographical album, and he also he doesn't succumb to the temptation of his second album being about how weird it is that now he's on the road and he's there with some success, which is could be the path. That kind of artist has gone down. Instead of just one other. What did you think about the liar, the guy who tells all the tall stories? Did that?
I don't like. There's no song you're going to name, and I'm going to go. Oh yes, that was the transformative one of the album.
I'm wondering whether you were. No, but
I genuinely.
They're quite different. That's in a quite different style.
But not different enough that I remembered it as a separate song. That's the thing. I hate it because it really sounds like I'm being a cop. I'm not.
No, I don't know. Someone said that's the one you could have imagined early Richard Thompson doing. Songs about people who don't fit in, and
I can imagine lots of things. I can imagine. Now I can't think of anything close to say. I can imagine unicorns.
Did you? We'll come back. We'll talk about that next week.
Though Richard Thompson was someone I was going to compare him in a slightly different way, in that. The real temptation, and something I do occasionally fall into with Luke Jackson when I'm trying to justify the fact that I don't get along with him, is to sort of say, because he's young and it rings false and things. When, of course, and the example I was going to use is that I don't think Richard Thompson got shot by the police while robbing a bank or anything, but I can still happily listen to songs he's written about that sort of thing. I think it is just that he's throwing out emotional cues that I'm not responding to.
I mean, Richard Thompson is one of my. I mean, I like a number of Richard Thompson songs, but as a performer, I find it to be a complete blind spot. I mean, people, think he is amazing. Think he's a fantastic guitarist. Our friend Nick, who isn't especially a folkie, went along to a Richard Thompson concert and was sort of telling all his friends, however far you have to travel, you've got to come and hear this. It's amazing. And I heard him 3 times, and again, no one would say that Richard Thompson was a bad musician, but it's like something. It is like a thing which is often said of Dylan that I can be listening to Richard Thompson singing Beeswing and thinking, Christy Moore did that really well. Mad Dog McCree did that really well.
Yeah,
Luke Jackson did a really good version of it.
Yeah, which you don't know, because you specifically told me not to.
What, not to listen?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll listen to that.
You said don't listen to this one, yeah.
Oh, maybe you should. Maybe just
you
putting.
thought I would shit on it.
Just putting a trailer out. Maybe just putting a trailer out. You should listen to it in time for the awards programme.
Oh right. Actually, in the running.
It is in the running. So. What else? What other songs? What other albums have we listened to?
I thought the Eliza and Martin Carthy one was quite interesting.
Yes, now that's the moral of the elephant, because the title song is actually a Victorian poem by someone called Rosson.
Is it that old?
Not that the legend is is an ancient legend, but that poem.
Oh, I always thought it was a inverted commas ancient legend.
I believe that poem is a Victorian poem writing up a genuine Indian legend, but I may be totally wrong.
No,
it's
so may I.
The moral of the elephant. So yeah, you were saying
it was really interesting. I'm not sure. I mean, this always sounds like I'm being negative. It wasn't like my favourite album of theirs or anything like that. But it was just. It was surprising how often they didn't sound like themselves, if that makes any kind of sense. You know, I was listening to. I think I sent you a text saying how much Eliza Carthy sounded like June Tabor, yeah.
Yeah, which I hadn't spotted, but then I listened to it again. You're absolutely right. Right, several of the songs she's really...
I mean, to the point I went and quickly checked, because I thought I was listening to the wrong thing, you know. And I thought, I'll say that on the podcast, and it'll end up that it was 3 June Tabor guest tracks or something, you know. But yeah, it was just... as I say, it was just really interesting how... If you'd given it to me the first time and not said, "Oh, this is Martin Carthy and Eliza Carthy," if you'd said it was like the, big Wainwright ensemble ones, the pirate songs ones,
yeah.
So if you'd said it was something like that, it would have taken me 2 or 3 listens to register that no, it's only two people.
Yeah, hang on. There are some of the ones, some of the Martin Carthy led ones. Are very Martin Carthy. The first one, which is the woman locked up by her father, isn't it? And the lover comes and rescues her. And the miners who are going to hold out for their right to hunt grouse. Those are very Carthy. Yeah. And I'm not sufficiently good at recognising fiddle styles that if I'd heard those, I would have instantly said, how interestingly different Eliza's accompaniment is than Swan's would have been. But, I mean, yeah. She does some very different things, and then there are a couple of the songs they do together which are weird and interesting, which the Moral of the Elephant is one, because it has a peculiar melody.
And that's doing a lot of work for it, the melody, because the actual story is a bit... Well, it's well known to the point where it's... There's nothing wrong with it in itself, but it's become trite through overuse.
And also that poem is a very wordy, very rhymey exposition of the story. If that's right. Whereas I don't know if you know there's a Wood Wilson and Carthy, Chris Wood, someone. Wilson, presumably, Martin Carthy.
It's just the bass fall out of Gloucester.
They do a song of the Taoist's Tale, but the version they do of that is stripped down. You know, the telling of the story is as simple as it could be. So yeah, no, I think that Moral of the Elephant song is great. The one about the Queen of Diamonds.
Yeah, that went on a bit. I think.
Yeah, I thought it went on, but it was interestingly different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on it either way. I think obviously the main thing that came to my mind about it was it went on a bit.
And the thing which I thought was the standout on the album was the Napoleon song, the Grand Conversation of Napoleon, which seemed to be, it was very much the two of them. I expect there's already a version of Martin Carthy singing the Grand Conversation of Napoleon, because there's a version of Martin Carthy singing absolutely everything. But it's not like a cover of one of his very well known ones. I actually, surprisingly, I know you generally hate it when there's speech in a song. Yeah. But I actually thought Carthy reading out the last 2 verses worked.
I'm going to be honest. I fast forwarded because it's not a thing. Oh, I hate the style. It makes me really cringe. I can't listen to it. It's not a stylistic choice. It's for some reason it embarrasses me.
But I will make a prediction that at the official Folk Awards, that's going to win lots. But the thing is, it's going to win because it's the first thing. I think it's the first time, first recording of Martin Carthy and Eliza Carthy together. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not saying they've never. I'm not
just
sure.
It's the first. It's just both.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not saying they've never appeared in because they were both in the Imagine Village.
Yeah.
But the first time they've done an album together, and I think it'll win on status, and why not? I was very excited when it was coming out. Given that Martin Carthy is my favourite performer. Gosh, that's two of my favourite performers.
you have quite a list of favourite performers.
No. But he's and I'm a fan of. I like Eliza Carthy very much. I like her more every time I hear her.
Yeah.
So I was, I didn't. It didn't blow me away in the way that I might have expected that.
No, that's fair enough. I think because I had a similar reaction. I think it did end up being the sort of thing I'll be quite glad to see winning awards, just because it is interesting.
Yes.
But as you say, there was nothing that blew me away either.
And I hope I will get to hear them tour with it because I'm sure that will be amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't really think of Martin Carthy in terms of albums. I mean, I have a lot of Martin Carthy. I know all Martin Carthy's albums, but I mean, sorry, they are repositories of Martin Carthy songs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, I do know which
He's
album
been
Prince,
on so much stuff.
I do know which album Prince Ethan was on. It was on the album Prince Ethan, but you know what I mean. You don't think of them as units. They're recordings of him doing vocals. Yeah, and in lots of permutations.
I mean, this is it. There's quite a few folk musicians who if you try and keep track, there's a couple of folk bands who, if you try and keep track and think of them as album bands, you just be overwhelmed. And,
yes, I think when you look, you find that there's less solo Carthy records than you're expecting because by the time you then got him and Norma, him and Swabs. It's not called Monkey's Foot, is it? It's called Brass Monkey. Even Steel Ice Band. I mean, yes, he's in everything. But yes, another album we enjoyed, I think. So we are 3 out of 4 agreeing on enjoying them. The only one that you. The next one I have on my list. Did you listen to Maz O'Connor, The Willowed Light?
Yes, I accidentally googled Maz O'Connor.
How did you like Maz O'Connor?
I remember her being very good, but Maz O'Connor, who I was actually googling to try and get the track listing, was one who I don't think I've disliked her on previous occasions. I think I've heard previous stuff she's done.
She's only done one other album, and that was. But anyway, she's officially new that she's up for the Horizon Award.
But I really like this one. This was the only one I deliberately listened to for on repeat for pleasure rather than for research.
Okay.
Which is not to say I dislike Martin Carthy and O'Hooley and Tidow and things, but with the rest of it, it was definitely I've got to make sure I listen to this again a couple of times for the podcast.
Okay.
Whereas this I had on in the background while I was vacuum sealing things. And
That's really interesting because this is the one on the list that I would put in my category of demanding. So,
but I think I started the first listen through a bit bored by it, and I mean I was won over by the end of the album, but it was one where I think if I'd just heard for a few tracks or if I'd not been thinking I have to listen to this album for the podcast, I probably wouldn't have persisted with it, but something clicked, 2/3 of the way through, and so the re-listens felt good in themselves.
Well, I think that's essentially what I'm saying because it's grown on me, but it's one of those that I found.
Well, no, I did like. I think she. The problem is, I feel I've got a load of people I want to instinctively compare her with, who I'm not sure I could articulate why.
I'll try.
Lucy Ward was one of the first ones that jumped to mind. Having said a bunch of people, I'm not now going to be able to think of any of the other ones. But I'd really struggle to say why I was comparing them, because they're not necessarily that alike, but just something in the... possibly the choice of song content on a few things.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of a few traditional songs, mostly stuff I assume she's written herself, and in some cases I had to look as to whether they were. I mean, actually, I don't do these things as affectations. I mean,
No.
it is but the one the one I like best was I think it's the last track on the album, the child ballad of the I don't know who my baby's father is. Oh, it's a weir seal. It's a selkie.
I think that's the standout track.
It's a selkie. I have to go back to the sea now, and she's going to marry a gunner, and he's going to kill you both.
Yeah. I honestly think that's the standout track of the album. That is a really, really good track.
Some of them were because she was making odd choices. Some of them were quite oblique. I honestly think if there hadn't been a video on her website, I think I downloaded the album, so I didn't have track notes. I don't say you're thick. I don't think I instantly realised which Derby Day she was talking about. I mean, it's quite. I mean, sorry, it's a. Hang on. Given that I was slightly complaining that O'Hooley and Tidow sometimes feel they're reading pages out of textbooks, I'm not saying I wanted that song to become la 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 suffragettes la la la, but you know, there's a little boy being taken to the Derby Day, and he's on his dad's shoulder, and then his dad says, "Oh, don't look."
Because did you realise by the end of the song, or did you?
No, I
genuinely had to look it up.
I think I'm saying, as in, it was a. I was aware. I'd heard the song. Yes, we shall be free on Derby Day, and then it did actually. I think it crossed my mind what Derby Day would you be, and then I paid attention.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's someone, but the fact that he doesn't say, and then this lady ran in front of a horse. And then there's a commotion and someone saying no, she's coming round. I mean, sorry, this is like I'm criticising it for being a really well written.
No, I mean, and the thing is, when I laughed just now, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing because I was remembering that time I didn't realise Bob Dylan was singing Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat until like 2/3 of the way through the song, most of which of the words are leopard skin pillbox hat. When I was listening to that, I think when I registered it was about something, if that makes sense, rather than just themes. I initially thought, was it about the fact that the Grand National is really cruel, and then pretty much instantly registered what it was actually about. So it's not that. So I wasn't actually saying you were thick for not getting it. I did love how it did it though, because it was it wasn't necessarily subtle, but it wasn't doing it, as you say, in a narrative way. It was just doing it as a snapshot type thing of it. There were quite a lot of dead women on the album.
Yeah, weren't there? There was there was. The first one, which is the very folky ballady one, because it starts with one of the three permissible opening lines of a folk song.
Oh, is this? It's Waking Up, isn't it?
Yes,
Did she do a version of Silver Dagger, or am I conflating?
I don't think. Hang on, the first song on the album, which is the one that the Awake Her Eyes. I think her father is waiting with a dagger to kill her, but it's not. So I think it's a song which is cognate.
It's a split off one, or is it?
But I think it's a song which is cognate with maybe cognate with Silver Dagger, but it isn't.
So that was me saying split off and doing a hand motion was much better articulated by the word cognate.
And the tune, that was, I don't know if that was a trad tune or something that had been written, but it reminded me of a number of tunes actually. You know who produced the album, by the way?
No, who did?
It's Jim Murray, and actually
that makes sense.
And it's actually there are bits of it which are very. Hang on. One of the things he does is producing, and he knows when to step back and when not to. But there are bits of the album where I think that's a very Jim Murray arrangement, and in fact that song, not only because it begins Awake Her Eyes, you drowsy sleeper, but the narrative of that song in fragments of the melody are quite a lot like his Lord Douglas.
Yeah,
but I mean he's not. But hang on, he isn't. And I guess some of the sweeping piano in it is him. He's certainly he's playing on it, but he's not in any way. There isn't any sense of him trying to turn this into a Jim Murray album. There's none of his characteristic.
No, I mean, but you can certainly. I wouldn't have guessed it without you telling me, but now you've told me you can hear it. I mean,
yeah, I think I knew. I think in fact, the first I heard of it was him tweeting about it. And I put it when I put it on the iPod. Listened to it initially. That first song, I thought, oh yes, I can hear that again.
That would also explain one of the other people who was jumping in my mind, who's actually not really anything like her. I think his name's Ian King, the one who did Dry Stone Walls.
Oh
And
yeah,
things.
yeah, Ian King.
Because he doesn't sound anything like her.
No.
But he does sound a lot of his tracks sound quite a lot like Jim Ray's tracks, I would say. Not in a copycat type way, just in a crossover kind of category. So it makes sense if I was hearing a touch of Jim Ray that it was cross connecting with, because it is, as you say, it doesn't sound like Jim Ray, but you can hear him once you know he's there.
Yeah, well, actually, it feels a bit like a Jim Ray arrangement, which is not in it, but yeah. So yeah, and also I think she's going to do well at the awards. I mean, the vocal awards, not our awards. She may do well at our awards. But she's going to do well at the real awards. She's coming to the Bristol Folk Festival, I believe.
Oh, cool.
So so that's an unexpected piece of agreement. You said you didn't go around to listening to Megson.
No, because my computer and that wasn't.
I would like you to listen to Megson in the box at some point, because I would be interested to know what you think of it.
I've certainly listened to Megson in the past, and
yeah, we heard that.
And not disliked.
Yeah, we heard them at Trowbridge, and you probably heard they're another ones in the ones who you made to be in the category of a bit too sweet. The first thing I ever heard them do was on Radio Derby folk program called Folk Waves. The so-called Little Joe, which is man off at sea, telling his wife to kiss their little man, and he's very, very sentimental but very sweet. There's sort of Newcastle neck of the woods.
Yeah.
There's a bit of unthanks. The thing that sometimes irritates me a lot about the unthanks. There's a bit of singing singing traditional folk songs very slowly, which I wish they wouldn't do. But this was another one where where it didn't have the killer song on it. In that some of their previous albums, there's the Little Joe song, there's the Supporting the Hopeless Football Club song. I don't think this had one that I was quite as crazy about, but it had some of their soul-ridden stuff. The title song in the box, which is simply up in the loft unpacking stuff, and we're going to get rid of this. This is the lead of our old dog. You never really wanted to have a dog. Oh yeah, but I can't bear to get rid of the lead. It's just all of those little.
It's one of those weird things, because I always accuse you of liking the mythic stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, you're much more likely to be sort of emotionally touched by those little snapshot songs than I am, really. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there's another one. There's one called Dirty Clothes, which is another slice of life of, when we were kids, we play games in the mud, and we were always getting into trouble for coming home in filthy clothes, and then we were off at college, and we were drinking and studying and getting girlfriends, and we never bothered to put anything in the washing machine.
Because I think I think that was in the concert that I saw. I think.
It could have been. I don't actually think it was, but maybe.
Because that and the football one were the ones.
Yeah, the football one. That's the long shot off the previous album called The Long Shot. That's a killer song. I mean, that's. And there was some of the I assume sort of traditional in the sense of probably being Geordie musical songs. The lady who has got married in a hurry and discovers that her husband has got a wooden leg, and then discovers that he's got two wooden legs, and it's the point where he asks her to unscrew his head for her. That's.
I think that was one of the.
Oh,
things
okay. Maybe
I suspect I've seen them possibly more recently than.
And another nice warm. About the old folks' tea party. They're very warm. They are quite sentimental. They do the traditional stuff. Oh, they've got another one. They've got another one in the genre of "There's been an accident in the mine shaft and everyone's dead," which they do nicely. Not. I liked very much. It isn't my favourite of their albums, but.
Would you like another drink?
Would I like another drink? Yes, please. How long have we been talking for?
Oh, just over an hour.
Oh, well, that's about right.
So I was thinking, possibly we could, if you wanted to do anything about Bob Dylan's Sinatra.
we have a little talk about it. I'm not. Have you listened to it?
No.
No, I'm not prepared. I'm probably. The other album we've been. I've
You've listened to.
I've been listening to, which I'm not quite yet prepared to do an actual review of. Is actually I can't remember what it's called, but Bob Dylan's a new Sinatra album. This is out of sequence really because we've been talking about albums from last year.
Yes.
This is brand new out.
This is the chatty bit at the end.
This is the chatty bit at the end. Yeah. It's okay. Hang on. And a couple of listens, I really like it. It is not getting into the. We've discussed several times on Folk Buddies whether the Christmas album is endearingly kitsch or a terrible mistake. It isn't.
Both.
Sorry?
Both.
Yes. This isn't doing any of that. This is doing songs.
I'm going to get you a cloth.
Hello. I've just opened a can of beer. No one has ever made such a mess opening. Regular listeners of whom Clarrie apparently isn't one, will know that at the Chris Wood concert last week, he did introduce one of his songs. This is a song about something or other, and by the way, it would be lovely if someone didn't open a can of beer in the middle. Which in fairness, because there was
no microphone.
But yeah, sorry about making it. But Bob Dylan sings. What can one say? He sings these songs straight. He doesn't sing anything massively famous, so I didn't actually know a lot of
Well,
them.
that was a deliberate choice, though, wasn't it?
I mean, the one I knew as a song was Sunshine at Evening, which seems to come across very well. Have you seen the video he's done?
I haven't.
He's done a video. He does The Night They Called It a Day. Right, we called it a day. Which he does a video of it and it's like a gruesome film noir, which ends up with I think he stabbed his girlfriend, and I think he's shot by someone. It's a wonderfully mannered send up of a film noir. It's really fun actually.
But then, to be honest, the Santa song video was fantastic fun as well, wasn't it? Yeah. It was. He clearly.
There's a video for something much further back, which is basically him, and he looks.
It's not the one with the signs, is it? Because I think they probably know about that one.
No. There's something on one of his couple of recent albums, but where they do a video of it, which is and whether it's real or staged, it's him. It's basically him walking through a street in New York and people coming up to him and saying it's Bob, and he's signing autographs saying hello. Now whether in fact it's actors or whether it's filmed real, but it's just a nice little. Bob Dylan has hired someone who knows how to make videos. But the two things I will say about the album, the new album, is whether there's some phenomenon by which if he, before making an album, doesn't sing for a month, the gravel goes. I can't believe it's actually been electronically changed, but it might be that in a studio he can afford to whisper into the microphone. But I mean, he was gravelly when he was 17, but it isn't that extreme rattly thing that he can do now. So it's actually, the great thing of Bob Dylan from 1960 is Bob Dylan can sing. He just sometimes chooses not to. The stuff where he used, famously on one of the bootleg albums, he does Moonshiner, and it's a perfectly, beautifully sung song, but a lot of the time he does weird things. But no, it's nice. It's simple arrangements. It really works. And we may see if we can get a guest in to talk about this. But I have done a survey on a representative demographic sampling of long-time Frank Sinatra fans who don't have any Bob Dylan records. Let's call her Mum. And I really like this album. She said, I've listened to it once because I knew you would ask me, and I've had it on, and I keep listening to it over and over again. And there were even apparently some of the songs on this album that she didn't have Sinatra singing. It was so
it's a success as an album, then,
success,
given that his stated aim was to do a good album of Frank Sinatra covers.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the sad thing.
Oh yes, because rather unfortunately we're recording this on the night that the death of Terry Pratchett was announced.
Yes.
Which it felt like something we should address, just because it feels tangentially folk music, doesn't it? It feels in the same way if Mr. Theakston's Old Peculiar had died, it would feel like something we should address.
There are lots of I guess there are lots of folkies who like Pratchett. Pratchett liked folk music enough to commission Steel Eye Span to do an album based on one of his books. Yeah, it's. I tell you what, I guess we're getting to that kind of age. That sort of of the. Okay, well, we've also, of course, this week had Mr. Spock die. Last week.
Leonard Nimoy.
But that's what you. But so the death of icons from when you were a kid. But Terry Pratchett, of course, he died younger than he should have done.
66.
But the sense of. How could he be dead? I remember when he was a new up and coming rattle. You know, I remember.
You would have been target demographic at the exact
yeah.
time he was an up and coming writer.
But yes, it's.
Because you weren't a particular reader of his books, were you?
Hang on, I have read a number of his books. I'm neither, although you know, I'm obsessive about some things in that genre. I was neither the anorak Pratchett obsessive who had to read them all, nor was I one of the literary people who occasionally wrote in the paper saying that he was actually the greatest literary talent since something or other. But I did find him funny. I mean, I did read him. I did think he was funny. I thought the Trackers series actually. I
was obsessed with that.
I like that rather more than. I just that sort of clever conceit carried right through appeals to me.
Because I was talking about this with another friend of mine earlier today, where it's sort of been slightly weird for me because I've always been a very big fan of his writing. Through. I'd really ended up disliking him as a person, because just basically through a story that is far, far too boring for this podcast, and genuinely so. Yeah. He was a massive dick a few times to me when I was a kid, and
this is at sci-fi conventions or conventions.
Well, this isn't the conventions, but this is kind of, as I say, too boring to go into. I ended up just over the time he's been ill. I've ended up with him completely and totally winning over my sort of respect and admiration, just because through the sort of personality he struck me as being, I genuinely don't think he could have imagined anything worse than the illness that struck him. Yeah. And the fact that just consistently going, right, I'm a very, very famous person with this going on, I'm going to make sure I do it loudly and bring attention to all the things that are also going to affect people who aren't famous.
Yeah, I mean, okay, you had a bad experience with him, but most of the accounts I've heard from people who were going to conventions from when he was not famous to when he was very famous, he certainly not to our Sci-Fi Society College, but to the Warwick one that we had links with, when he published a few books, was going on to small science fiction societies. I mean, I think quite specifically, and he did that, and probably carried on doing that because he tried the jokes out. And that there was a.
Oh, I mean,
it was a process, but I mean, it was always the stories were always that he was interested, and
I mean, it was never anything more sinister than not getting along. But as I say, he genuinely ended up with sort of, for all that I can't imagine he would have cared, he did end up as someone I admired.
There are people who are writers in that world who have a fairly wide reputation as being awkward. I don't think there are many stories of incredibly charming. I believe that's true. But there's an obligation on you when you're a writer.
No.
But Pratchett, all those stories, it seems to me that he was a nice guy. Fade out to Steel Ice Band playing Dark Morris. Actually, Dark Morris song. Sorry to end on a downer, but
unless that listeners really fucking hate Terry Pratchett, in which case.
Sorry ending on a downer, but we've been much more positive and upbeat about the records than I was.
We have
most, apart from what we knew we weren't going to agree. We had most agreement and a surprising, well, not surprising, but a different woo for Maz O'Connor.
Yeah, and given how sick I've been of just music recently, it's not even specifically folk music the last couple of months.
So we will be back at some unspecified time in the not too distant future to bring you for 2014, but the 2015.
The Monties.
The Monty Awards for our favourite folky things.
Yes, for the favourite. You could keep this exact same thing. It's the favourite folky things of people who live in pink houses in Montpellier.
In Montpellier, absolutely.
Yes.
So we will see you then.
Ooh, music. Good.
I was about to say, I was about to say something so stupid. I thought I should get partway through, and I was partway through this thing to roll out a Barber roll. I thought, oh, they're on the south side. Yes, they rather would be, wouldn't they? But it says, the ship set forth to destroy the commerce of the north. And I think, oh, you mean the baddies? My apologies for any American listeners who are no longer listening.
Don't fucking apologise to them. You were the baddies. It wasn't about states' rights in any way, shape or form.
Oh dear.
That's revisionist history.
Yes. And that's why I don't read The Guardian. Guardian supported the South all through the Manchester Guardian. What's now the Guardian supported a Manchester paper would be really, wouldn't it? But so anything else to say about revival by Bellowhead?
I just wonder where our listeners realised you were black. You're gonna have to edit that out because it's not racist, but it really sounds like it.